Students, my name is Saif Abdi, and I'm associate professor with the School of Management, BBD University, Lucknow. And in continuation with the Unit 4 of Business Ethics for the BBA program, uh, today we will be looking at stress management. So let's just do a small recap of what we have done till now. So we had seen what is knowledge, what is wisdom, difference between knowledge and wisdom, then applying knowledge and wisdom, knowledge worker versus a wisdom worker, and wisdom management, knowledge management. And in continuation with the Unit 4 topics, today we will be discussing stress management in detail. So, before going into stress management, let's look at what is stress. So, stress is a general term applied to various psychological or physiological pressures experienced by or felt by people in their lives. So, what are psychological pressures? Psychological pressures are the mental pressure, and the physiological pressures are the bodily pressures or the physical pressures which we feel. Now, what is the definition of stress? Stress is defined as a state of psychological and physiological imbalance resulting from the disparity between situational demand and individuals' ability and motivation to meet those needs. So, stress can be positive or negative. Stress is sometimes good when the situation offers an opportunity to a person to gain something. It also acts as a motivator for peak performance. Stress is negative when a person faces social, physical, organizational, and emotional problems. So, first look at the definition, and let's discuss it. So it says that it is a state of psychological or physiological imbalance when there is a disparity between the demand of the situation and the individual's ability and motivation to meet that demand. So stress can be physical or physiological. For example, for a laborer, who is doing for example working at a construction site, and he instead of working for 8 hours, which is his capacity, he is being asked to work for 10 hours or 12 hours, or maybe he is asked to work at 8 hours stretch without giving him a break. So then he will be in physiological or bodily pressure. So why he's working? Because there is a demand from the contractor that for maybe the building has to be completed within a short period of time or a short span of time, or he wants to he is the contractor is pressurizing the labor to just to get more out of him. So but his body is not ready to accept that demand, neither is the labor motivated to do that, because he will get the same amount of money. So but again, if there is a motivation, then that stress can be lowered, or maybe, so for example, if he's getting extra for that 2 hours, or maybe he's getting some extra money to complete the job in short duration. So when then the motivation is there to meet the needs. So this when that is there, then the stress will not be there. But when the motivation is also not there, and the ability is also not there, then it causes stress. Likewise, psychological, the mental, so people who do mental work, so for example, maybe a software developer or an accountant or a lawyer or a doctor, when when they are working on demands which are out of their ability, out of their physical ability, mental ability, and the motivation is also not there, then it causes stress. So this is stress. Now, in recent times, the causes of stress and the bodily response to the stress has been the subject of many studies, psychological studies. Uh, so why we are uh, talking about stress? Because, and why these studies have been made on stress? Because in today's world where we are living, it has become a very competitive world, and people, especially the professionals, we as professionals uh, uh, are just running around uh, trying to achieve more and more, and trying to maybe get our salaries increased, trying to get promotion, and so we are living a life in a very fast lane, and we are not, and that's when we are what we are doing is that we are basically putting a lot of stress on our body, on our minds, in this rat race, which is causing stress, because our body, our mental status, our mind can they have a limited capability, and they can take a limited amount of workload. But when we increase that workload, then the stress happens. So that's why these days a lot of studies, and even the organizations are working on this aspect so that their employees are not stressed. So if you look at lot many organizations these days take their employees for weekend breaks, weekend outings, and there are most of the organizations have some kind of stress relieving activity every week, like a Friday fun and all these things. They have lunch parties and all these things so that the employees are not stressed out. And so what happens is that when the stress increases, the the employee just breaks down. So either he will leave the company, or in the worst case scenario, it may lead to a nervous breakdown or some kind of physical or mental issue. Now, so basically, we here what I have done is that we I have made three categories of stress. So this is namely acute, episodic, and chronic. So, what is acute? Acute is basically short term events which do not last long, but if traumatic, can have a lasting impact on us. So acute are very are short. Some small incident which happens with you, that causes acute stress. But if that, although short, but if that incident is very traumatic, then it will have a very long lasting impact on that person. Then episodic stress are the ones which are short term, but the situation is short term, but it happens regularly. So it can be, for example, your your boss is you are not having a good relationship with your boss. But what happens is that because every time he meets you, he either dislikes you or some other factor. He will keep pointing fingers at you, or he will scold you, or he will pass a remark. So these kind of, because this will happen every day or every week or a monthly basis. So this is a short term situation, but since this is happening regularly, this is called as episodic stress. Then the last one is chronic stress. Chronic stress is an ongoing stress which lasts a long term. This may be this these are basically stresses are because of some fractious relationship or some illness which you are having. So these are chronic. This one is called chronic stress, which is a long term stress, and this is the worst one out of the possible three. Now let's look at some of the causes of stress. So first cause is career concern. So career concerns happens when, for example, when you see that your batchmate or your colleague has got promoted, and you are not getting promoted, you are lagging behind. This is one of the career concern which you can have, which will cause stress. Likewise, if your peers, colleagues are or batchmates are at a higher salary than you are doing the same amount of work, but your salary is not as per your expectation, then you may experience stress regarding career. So likewise, basically when you see yourself behind in the race or on the corporate ladder, then you feel the then you feel the stress related with the career. Then the second one is role ambiguity. Role ambiguity. This cause of stress is because when you are not sure about your role in the organization, or the KRAs which are expected out of you, the key results area. So you are neither here nor there. You don't know what is expected out of you, what the management wants from you, what are your which area you should work on. So this all creates confusion, and or maybe there may be things which you are not sure whether it is your deliverable or it is the deliverable of some other person. So basically your roles, responsibilities, KRAs are not clear, so that results in stress. So this is the one of the causes of stress, which is called because of role ambiguity. Then rotating work shifts. This is a new thing which has come into place once we have these software companies and BPOs and call centers coming in. So rotating shift is like you are working, say for example, 1 week you are working in day shift from 9 to 5, then next week you are working in late evening shift or a night shift. So this actually creates health problems. And so because 1 week you are awake at night, and next week you have to sleep at night. So because this gives sleep disorders, and this gives many other health issues, eating problems and all these things, because your body is not being accustomed to a proper shift timing. So this is the rotating work shifts problem. So this actually gives both psychological and physiological stress. Rotating shifts. Then the fourth one is the role conflict. So role conflict is quite similar to the role ambiguity problem. Uh, this one is role conflict is that you are the job profile you are working is, or the job you are doing is not as per your expectation. Then other can be then when a job demands a certain type of behavior and this is against your moral values. So for example, your job demands to bribe government officials or some kind of immoral act, but your moral or your ethics does not allow that. So that is role conflict. So all these kind of situations cause stress. Then occupational demands. So occupational demands are something where your jobs involves risks or dangers. So, for example, you are working in a factory which is producing chemicals, and you are inhaling those chemicals, the smoke from that chemicals, and it can be psychological things like making decisions which you are not okay with, and then it can be unhealthy working conditions or dangerous working conditions, like for example people working in coal mines. So also cause stress. Then the next one is lack of participation in decision making. So this happens majorly with the senior people who have the experience, who have the qualification, and for the senior role, and they are senior in the organization, but their uh, their inputs are not taken in decision making. So they think that they are not participative in the decision making process, and that causes some kind of inferiority to them. So this also causes stress. Then one very common is work overload. When you are overloaded with work, which work which is more than your capacity, which you cannot handle mentally or physically, or you are not motivated to do that work. So that is work overload. Then the next one is work underload. Sometimes what happens, this may sound funny, but actually if you are doing in any organization, you are doing much less than what you can do. That can also be very stressful, and this actually makes you believe that you are good for nothing, and there are a lot of cycles. So this has nothing to do with your physiological thing. This has to do with your psychological aspect. You feel that you are not good enough to be given work, and that makes a psychological dent. And so work underload is also one of the causes of stress. Then the next one is poor working conditions. So poor working conditions maybe which we have discussed under occupational demands. So similar to that, poor working conditions can be like there are inadequate safety measures, there is excessive pollution, noise, dust, or toxic gases or fumes, or bad ventilation, or inhuman conditions, or maybe uh, the washrooms are not good, or the place where you sit is not clean, and all these things. So these are all come under poor working conditions, and uh, these are the causes of stress. Then there is lack of group cohesiveness. This again happens a lot when you find that you're working in a group, and there is no teamwork, there is no unity in the group. People are jealous, there are fights, there are quarrels, so there is mistrust. So all this leads to stress. Then there is next is interpersonal and intergroup conflict. So these conflicts basically happen to differences in perception, attitudes, values, and beliefs between individuals or between groups also. So and these kind of situation gives stress to all the group members. Then the next one is organizational changes. Basically, it's very human. It's human nature to resist change. And when in any organization changes happen, the stress uh, becomes higher for people. So, for example, if you are transferred from one place to another, or because you are settled in your job, you are working at one place, but you are transferred to another place, or you are transferred from one department to another. Likewise, if yeah, your boss gets changed. So now you are accustomed to one style of working under one boss, and now your boss gets changed. He comes with a totally different mindset, totally different working style. So these kind of organizational changes give people stress. Also, adoption of technology, new technology. I remember when computers were launched in India, so in banks, in government departments like railways and other all the offices, the secretariat and all, everywhere computers came into picture. And now the old employees, they were very reluctant to use computers. They were not because they had to learn how to use computers, which was a very new thing for them. So there was resistance against that, so that also causes stress. Now then lack of social support. So this is a very psychological mental thing, wherein when an employee thinks that he does not have friends at work, and he does not have people who support him, or so he this person experiences stress. So because at workplace also you spend around 9 to 10 hours every day, and if you don't have enough people supporting you, or if you don't have friends at workplace, then it will be very stressful for you, because you because you need you when you're working, there is always sometimes there is work pressure, sometimes there are other issues. So when you have friends whom you can go out and maybe have a cup of tea, or maybe talk to them for 10-15 minutes, that relieves you quite a lot. So but when you don't have any friend or support group at work, that gives you stress. So, and then there are few others like poor pay. If you're not getting good salary, that is cause of stress. Then dealing with rude customers. This happens mostly with the people sitting at front desk. They have to deal a lot with rude customers. So even in a day, if one rude customer comes in and he gives you a mouthful or says some bad things, then your whole day is gone, and you go into stress. So these were the few causes of stress, the main or common causes of stress which we looked into. Now let's look at the consequences of stress. So first of all is chronic fatigue. So basically, stressful tasks require the individual to work beyond the point at which they feel that they can't cope. So, in an attempt to cope, they will often increase their working hours and reduce their break times. This is done at the expense of family, social, and leisure time. Even when not at work, they might find it hard to switch off. Prolonged exposure to stressful work can lead to chronic fatigue, whereby the individual is both physically and mentally exhausted. So this here we are discussing that the stressful working condition, the stressful task, which is out of the physiological and psychological capacity of a person. So what then when this happens that so basically to cope up with the work or working condition, what the employee does is that he increases his working hours, he or she increases his or her working hours, they reduce their break times, and what they do is they do this on the expense of their family time or social time or break time or leisure time. And now when they are doing this, even when they are not at work, they it is very hard for them to switch off. And prolonged exposure to this condition can lead to chronic fatigue, and this is basically exhausting both physically and mentally. Now the next consequence of the stress is physical health. So basically, prolonged exposure to stressful activities leads to rise in individuals' cortisol levels. Excessive levels of cortisol can suppress the immune system, thus exposing the individual to a wide variety of potential illness. The individual may also adopt unhealthy behaviors in an attempt to cope with stress. Example, increased alcohol consumption or maybe smoking cigarettes. These behaviors can further increase the individual's chances of experiencing bad health. Among the illness which have been linked with stress are cancer and cardiovascular disease. Uh, Physical health issues which might be experienced include heart attacks, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, and angina. So these are the consequences of stress, physical, which are related to physical health. So what we are seeing here is that when you are exposed to stressful activities for quite long, so this results in increase in cortisol levels. And now, when there are excessive levels of cortisols, your immune system gets suppressed, and then when your immune system gets suppressed, you are now uh, uh, exposing yourselves to a variety of illness. And when you are and then what all also happens that when you are under stress, you tend to get bad habits just to get a short term relief. So you may start smoking cigarette, you may start consuming alcohol. So this basically had that. So already you are your immune system is not working, and then you are taking all these toxic things, and which will basically uh, further increase your chances of experiencing bad health. So I'll keep it at this today, and in the next lecture we will see the psychological health in detail. So thank you for the time, students. Have a nice day.